Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today where we're discussing 6 things that need to be fixed in the F1 2020 game. The general gameplay, but also the things I've encountered during playing my team career mode. I'm sure you guys may have come across some of these and will agree with them, and I'm sure there's going to be things that I've missed at this stage of the game cycle that do need to be addressed rather soon. Some of these things will be kind of little things that they can hopefully fix and will actually make a difference to the gameplay for you and me, and then some of them are kind of more fundamental things which might be harder, but do need to kind of just be at least dressed and said again, basically, because there are, well, there's 1 or 2 that are recurring things from not just this game, but from previous ones. But let's dive in. It's obviously been just under 3 weeks since the game came out, so I think it's a nice time to do this sort of video, and also, since we're coming to the end of Season 1, I definitely got the experience of playing the game for a decent amount to know that these things still need to be addressed. Number 1, and this point hopefully will be addressed very soon, maybe I'm going to jinx it, and basically it'll be addressed within the next week, I hope so, but we are yet to still get a performance patch for the F1 2020 game. The base performance of all the cars in the game is still not correct. They're sort of in the right ballpark for a lot of them, but all the Ferrari-powered cars are still way too quick in a straight line. We've seen already, you can see it in my career mode with Leclerc going toe-to-toe with Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship, that the Ferrari in general is a bit too quick, but then you've also got the Alfa Romeos being absolute rocket ships in a straight line, and not only my career mode, but other creators' career modes, and then also Haas still being able to challenge the other midfield teams, when that's, okay, maybe a little bit of a case in the case of Haas, but definitely for Ferrari, they're way too fast for what they are. Now, I'm sure this will come in, but I'm going to bring it up in this video because I think it's quite poor that we've had 3 whole Grand Prix, and I know it takes some time to maybe adjust things, because you only not have to adjust the car performance, you might have to adjust the R&D tree then for my team potentially, just to make sure the kind of potential of the Ferrari cars still matches up with what they're wanting to, you know, once we get towards the Max cars later on in later seasons. But I still think it's quite poor after nearly 3 whole weeks, we're still not getting this update. I think this time last year, within, I think just over 2 weeks, we got our first performance patch update, whereas this time it's taking a little bit longer. Of course, I know maybe the circumstances are different, they're maybe not working still in the office due to the whole issues with the world right now, but I still think it's a major thing. 3 weeks into the game, you know, people are finishing, you know, people like me, even you guys, I mean, some of you guys are past me in like Seasons 2 and 3 of your career modes, and you have to play that entire experience with the Ferrari engines being way faster than they are, and it's not like a little thing. You know, we've seen in Austria, they're losing 7/10 a lap over the course of the lap because of how slow that engine was in comparison to what we have in the game. Like I said, I could be jinxing this, and straight away next week they're going to announce that patch, but I really think that should be like kind of right up there. I know bug fixes are a priority, but also this is a major thing that affects just the general gameplay aspect of your game, of not really being a realistic F1 representation when all the Ferrari-powered cars are so higher up. Number 2 is going to be the sponsor system in the game for the customization of the liveries, and in general as well, there still are a few little texture bugs here and there, like the halo and certain sponsors not loading in properly, and it's a little bit hazy here and there, so that still could be fine-tuned, but the major thing I'm getting at here are the sponsors, and the kind of thing to do with the colors of the sponsors, the kind of differences between the sponsors on a certain part of the car and the other side of the car. For example, the sponsor you place on the side of the chassis is the same sponsor, like that exact one gets copied over onto the halo. Now, that obviously is a nice way to efficiently package that in the game, but it really is not helpful when you have different liveries as well, where maybe the color is not going to coordinate with the side of the chassis and the halo. And the same thing with the kind of rear wing to, you know, the kind of side of the car to the front of the car, because obviously I think the lower down sponsor on the side of the car, on the side pod, and the rear wing, those two copy over to the front nose cone portion of the car. Now, that again may not correspond quite nicely to what you have on the side and the rear wing. And on top of that, the numbers, that's also another thing. Every single customizable number, obviously you choose a race number, but they're all in just black and white, you know, black font, white outline. I really don't see why it was going to be difficult just to give us a similar color changer for the number, at least, like it is with the sponsor, let alone the whole sponsor clashing of the colors. I don't know, in terms of a final product, I kind of think it would have been kind of quite obvious to look at that and think, okay, there might be some color clash issues where, you know, people might have chosen a very zany livery that has a lot of different colors, or even some of the most crazy rare ones out there, like the kind of Galaxy, you know, livery, or the splatter camo. If you unlock those in the podium pass, your sponsors are just going to clash so badly if you're trying to, you know, make a kind of nice looking one from the onboard, and then offboard it's going to look totally weird because you've had to try and match the color to the onboard Halo ones. So that's something that, you know, it's a simple general sort of thing of just allowing those two different things to be different colors. And then, like I said, the number thing, that's a massive thing. And obviously on PC, you can change that because you can start to mod the cars. But on console, you guys are stuck with that kind of mishmash of you can have like a fully black car, and for some random reason, the number is black. It makes no sense in real life. That would never be, a designer would never sign that off of having a black number on a black car. Number 3 are going to be some of the sponsor goals and the lack of scaling from when you go from 100% race, 50 to 25, and taking into account the track layouts. And this is something directly that I've obviously experienced and I've told you guys about in my team career mode, but some of the goals like achieving 100 laps, now that seems like a decent goal, yeah? If you're doing a 100% race, that seems like a decent goal. You know, you do whole practice, you've got that long practice you might do, but realistically, that should probably scale down when you do 50% race to 25. If you're doing a 25% race and you've got a goal of 100 laps, you're going to have to do more laps in practice than you do in the race just to get that goal. Like if it's a 15 lap race, you and your teammate are only doing 30, you're going to have to do like 60 laps just to make up for it in practice, and no one's doing that. So I feel like it was a very simple thing of just allowing that to scale down for the difference. And also, it was a very good point by one of you guys in the comments below when we first got that sponsor in my team. A better way to do that would have been kilometers or miles covered rather than actual laps, because that would be the same case if there was some sort of performance, you know, test you had to do in real life. You wouldn't do it off laps because all the teams know that track to track the lap length is different. It's better to do it by miles covered or kilometers covered. Almost like, you know, the reason why we all measure the fuel in F1 in kg, because the actual weight of the fuel doesn't change, the volume will change, but the kg won't change on temperature. It's the same sort of thing. Scientifically, it's kind of almost wrong for an F1 team to be setting you a task of 100 laps, knowing that Spa 100 laps is very different to the Austrian Grand Prix 100 laps. So just taking a bit of kind of common sense in that kind of way with some of those sponsor goals, and I'm sure there'll be other goals out there that I haven't come across, that I haven't seen yet because I've not scrolled through enough, that might need tweaking in terms of that scaling as well for the 25 to 50 to 100% race. Number 4, now this is a real old issue in the F1 games, and it's been like banging my head against a wooden plank, and I'm sure it's the same thing for all of us basically, but I'm going to bring it up because I have to bring it up, because if I don't, it won't go away, because we need to make sure that at some point this does get solved, maybe on the next gen, you know, new engine for the F1 game, maybe finally then it will get addressed. But the fact that quali times are still ridiculously simulated at the end of the session is just a massive issue. It's so hard to be confident where you are in qualifying, knowing that either if you fast forward through the session, the AI can just speed up instantly because the simulated times for some reason isn't scaled to either where the car is, you know, performance-wise, or what difficulty you're playing at, whatever the case. And then no matter what difficulty you're on, as soon as you load in from the end of the session, there's that black screen for 2 seconds, literally just 2 seconds, and it loads back into the final result, and you've got like 10 of the field have just done a magical extra lap that you didn't think they were going to finish, or they weren't really that quick, and then magically, you know, they've done that last 2 sectors off camera in the loading screen, and they've out-qualified you, and they've done much better. And there's a reason why, generally, the trend is, if you look at most YouTube videos of people doing career modes, all of us qualify a lot lower than where we race, because all the AI are so good at qualifying, and they get jumped up by these sim times at the end of every session. It's been the case since pretty much F1 2018, or it was a little bit of an issue in 2017, but not a major one. But 2018 to 19 for sure, those 2 games, it was a big issue. I know in 2019 it actually somehow got worse and worse as you got on through the career mode, because the faster cars actually really screwed up the sim times, and so it was so hard sometimes to be able to qualify properly because they always sped up so much. But it's an issue again in the 2020 game. I think it's a fundamental engine issue with maybe how that simulated data is stored and how the AI access that simulated time to give you those times. And so that's why I hope it's something that is addressed into the new game. But it's something I have to bring up, because if it is something that they could maybe look at now, I would implore them to, because it definitely does affect everyone's experience of qualifying, at least if you're doing the full qualifying length and not like one shot, for example. Number 5, and this is a new one that I encountered in my team personally. This was during the Singapore Grand Prix I encountered this, but the weather indicator can sometimes be completely wrong on the game. So in Singapore, if you watched that episode of mine, you may have seen we had quite a lucky break in qualifying, but we got lucky on that side where we could have got it so wrong. Essentially what happened in that Singapore qualifying was the indicator in the garage when I went to the screen that's, you know, placed on your car, it showed three instances of rain: 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes, meaning it's going to rain. When we fast forward by 5 minutes, it should be raining. In 10 minutes, definitely still raining. In 15, definitely still raining. What happened was I did my lap when it was dry, and then I fast forwarded thinking, oh, all the AI are going to now hit some rain. It wasn't raining at all. Why is the indicator telling me it's raining in 5, in 10, and in 15 minutes when it doesn't rain at all then in that session? If I hadn't have stopped the speed up and looked kind of automatically and slowed it down in real time and seen other AI was still going out and setting dry lap times, I would have been screwed, because I did notice that, and so I went out for another dry lap and I improved my time to get through into Q3. But if I hadn't have done that and just blindly went on the weather report, I would have been completely screwed over. Now, I know there's that, you know, little tangible thing of, oh, sometimes weather reports aren't accurate. Okay, there's some leniency, but I feel like if it's showing rain for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, that's a little bit overkill of how wrong the weather report can be. You know, if it says rain in 5 minutes and then dry in 10, and then 15, it's in dry again. If it's raining for a further 10 minutes, not 5 minutes, I can excuse that. But the fact that it kept saying categorically it's going to rain for the entire session into the next session, which it did, there's no reason why the weather's not matching up to what the report says in that kind of way. And finally, number 6, and thankfully this is something that I have not encountered, but having spoken to a fellow content creator, Tom97, and also some of you guys have tweeted me or, you know, said in the comments below sometimes, I've seen it a few times, there have been still little foibles with the HQ and also R&D as well, of you spending money and spending points, and sometimes you kind of back out of the game, you save the game, you spend the money, you back out, you come back in, and the upgrade has not come through. Like you spent the money, but the upgrade actually hasn't come through. Hopefully that's something they maybe did actually patch in the previous patch, because sometimes some of the fixes they've actually done, they don't actually, you know, categorically mention it's been a fix on the patch notes, because some of them are quite game breaking for obvious reasons. They might not want to disclose the fact that that was an issue in the game, but that itself, thankfully, I've not seen that ever, of spending money that I don't actually receive the upgrades. But Tom has seen that, and I think he must have addressed it in his series at least or something, or he mentioned it to me in a DM, and I think some of you guys have also said it in comments below sometimes here and there. But those are 6 things right now that are like the early things that I think need to be fixed, that are things that, you know, some of those are sponsor things. I think that's quite a small thing to kind of rectify and kind of look into, but it would massively change the entire experience of just the way people go about it. You know, it's so different for people on consoles compared to PC, so that's why I bring these up all the time, because I might not personally be affected by these kind of things, but it will be for you guys who are on Xbox and for PS4. It's a really annoying thing like that with the sponsors. And then obviously, like I said, kind of more simple things like the car performance. I just think personally by now they really should have had them patched into the game. But those are my 6 things I think need to be fixed right now in F1 2020. Let me know in the comments below of things that you've maybe cropped off, like, you know, major bugs that are really hampering your progress maybe in the game. If you guys did enjoy the video and agree with those points, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, like I said, about any kind of more things that you think at this early stage need to be addressed quite early on, that aren't, like, you know, that aren't things that can be maybe waited around till later down in the game cycle. And if you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.